this is all we have, this journey that we're on, then I will take your hand, and we'll keep moving strong. If this is all we have, you'll help me carry on. I want to share it all with you, with you, with you.
A very good evening to you tonight. A very, very good evening and a good afternoon. I thank you for coming on in and spending some time with me tonight. This is a special thing that we get to do. Getting onto the internet and communicating with each other. Tonight, I want to talk about how health got complicated and how to fix it, how you and I can do something about this. I'm going to start this off with prayer. Helps me to stay focused, helps me to try and do a much better job. So let's pray together. I thank you, Father God, for everything you've done for us. I thank you for this opportunity. You are holy, you are righteous, you are mighty. You are a good God. You are the God. And I thank you for this opportunity through YouTube, through the internet, that myself and those that watch this, we can connect. Please bless this time that we will spend together, you, myself, and those that watch. May we learn, may we understand. Father God, may I do a good job that honors you, honors my family, and honors those who come and spend their precious time to watch what I'm doing and what I have to say. Please be with us. Please guide us. Please direct us. And thank you for what Jesus Christ did on the cross. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So I have a script down here, like I always do. And if you see me looking down, I'm checking to see what's my next question and trying to stay on track, trying to be focused. My opener for today is this. I used to think health was rocket science. Calorie charts, macros, apps, experts. until I realized, until I really thought about this, that every other creature on earth already knows what to eat, except us. Tonight, we're cutting through the noise to find the simple truth about food and why we were designed to be healthy. Hear that. We were designed to be healthy. Whether we're coming from evolution, young earth creationism or old earth creationism or health, evolution, whatever we're coming from, the designers of us did not design us with the idea that we would not be optimally designed for thriving and doing very well. It does not benefit evolution in any way, shape, or form to promote those and that which is not strong and not built well. It also does not help God in the same way. If He didn't build us well, there's going to be no survival. We were designed to be healthy. And there are challenges to health. If you're in the environment and all of a sudden you break a leg, that's bad, and that is detrimental to our health. Or there's infectious disease, parasites. These things also are detrimental to our health. But our bodies were not designed to also fight us. Heart disease, cancer, irritated bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, fatty liver disease, you name it. Why is it that our bodies are constantly fighting us as we get older and as we're seeing more and more young people be 12 years old and already have type 2 diabetes? Like, how did our species survive if we were so frail, so fragile? How'd we get to where we are now? I mean, we either survived thousands of years, no matter which way we look at it, we survived thousands of years. We went through ice ages. We went through, difficulty in difficulty. Let me try this again. We went through ice ages. We've lived in deserts. We've lived up in the Arctic. We've lived in very difficult conditions in jungles, forests, you name it. We survived. And now in the modern age, our bodies are so frail. We need the factories, we need pharmaceuticals and vitamins and supplements and a absolute host of foods in order to maintain some kind of health. Every animal knows except us. Why does every animal instinctively know what to eat? But we need books, experts, doctors, documentaries, diet plans. We need a whole host of information in order for us to be healthy. That's what we've been taught since we were knee-high to a grasshopper. I mean, I remember growing up, I had to eat my vegetables, didn't like all of them, and I had to consume those. That was good for me. As my camera wiggles. My camera still wiggles. Why? That bugs me to no end. Been trying to get my camera to not wiggle, but why is it? Why is it every single animal knows what to eat, but we don't? Well, part of it is we could say that we are born with no knowledge. Like, we don't know anything when we are born. We have no idea about anything. Aside from a couple of instinctual things, we know how to breathe, we know how to have a heartbeat, our digestive system doesn't need any training. Hear that? Hear that. Our digestive system doesn't need any training. When we first consume our mother's milk, our digestive system knows exactly what to do with that. What changed in us that made eating so confusing? Because you think about this. Our mothers fed us milk, and even that got complicated in the modern age. We're supposed to consume baby formula. In fact, I remember the Biden administration in the United States got a whole lot of criticism because baby formula was somehow was in short supply, and people were not able to get baby formula. What did people do in 1825? And there was no such thing as baby formula. What did they do then? Why is it we need that factory so our babies can eat? Why is it we need hundreds of thousands, millions of acres of land in order to feed us plants and vegetables and animals and chickens? But you go back to the Old West in 1815, and the amount of land allotted for each person to survive and live is far less on average than the amount of land allotted for each person to survive today. What changed? Why is it so confusing? Why do we need all these experts to tell us what to do? What was going on in 1817 in the West? And you take a look at ancient peoples, indigenous peoples. They didn't have all this wild health advice going on, and they thrived. We have replaced instinct with industry. I mean, think about this. When you need food, you don't go out into the forest, right? And to gather your food and to eat that way, you go to the grocery store. Me too. Like, I'm any different. We both go to the grocery store. And we don't know how to survive on average. Like, I mean, if you're a typical person, right? You wouldn't know what you could or could not eat inside a forest. Me neither. I mean, I know, if it's an animal, I know what to do with that. But plant-wise, I don't know. And even if we're talking about animals, what animals, like, how would I attract animals to be able to catch the animal and be able to dress the animal and prepare the animal to eat? Like, I haven't done a lot of that in my lifetime. And I will argue, neither of you. We go to the grocery store and we require labels, we require advice, and we require a lot of effort to be able to be healthy and eat a healthy diet. If deers, sharks, and eagles stay lean without counting calories, what can we learn from them? And this is something that's absolutely true. Our domestic animals suffer from obesity and all the diseases that we suffer from. But those same animals in the wild, they don't suffer from those diseases. Now, they still have to deal with the environment, infectious disease and environment, but they do not, in any way, shape, or form, suffer from the heart disease, cancer, and every other issue that we've got going on in our population and within the domesticated animals population. Our pets, they're struggling in their health. And our pet owners are very passionate about their pets. They get the very best that they can for their pets. And I mean, some might argue that the animals have an unnatural long lifespan, but I disagree. Some animals are living longer in captivity than they would in the wild, but many animals live very long lives in the wild. But even if we were to just, granted that in domesticated animals don't have to suffer from the dangers of nature and they're not going to be prey and all that kind of stuff, they get sick and suffer from the diseases that we do very early on in life. And they do not suffer that in the wild. So I don't think that has to do with like unnatural lifespans. I think it has to do with unnatural lifestyle, something else going on. Food confusion, though, is not our fault. It's not your fault. right? Just like the animals that we feed, the confusion that we have around what they even need to eat and stuff like that has nothing to do with your unwillingness to learn. You're doing the very best that you can. So food confusion is not your fault. Who profits when health gets confusing? I'm going to argue it's not you and I. We don't profit from this. Instead, it is going to be people who find ways to simplify that which appears confusing. So like when you go to the grocery store and you buy a box of cereal, why do you buy that box of cereal? Because it's easy. It's way easier. Right? You can't grow your own wheat. You can't mill it yourself. You cannot process it yourself to create the cereal that you would eat. Even if you are buying oatmeal and you're gonna process the oatmeal past that, it's still dependent upon farms and factories for you to get that oatmeal. And I mean comparatively when it comes to sugar versus, your sugar cereals versus oatmeal, it is better. Of course, I know myself, like when I have hot cereal, oatmeal, or what's it called now? Cream of wheat. I add a little salt in there, but I put sugar with it, and the oatmeal and the cream of wheat both turn into sugar when digested in our bodies. So, but that's what we're told is absolutely healthy. We have to have that. It is not our fault at all. And as I get back onto what I was saying, who profits? It's not us. And what I mean is the individual. Instead, those who benefit from this confusion, I'm going to argue, are the corporations. And I'm going to be careful here because a lot of times it sounds like we're just attacking the rich and the people who have figured out how to provide what people want at scale. People want to eat this. People want to have this. They desire it. So the corporations, I don't think they're evil. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I do not think that corporations are evil by and large. Like just fundamentally, like what they are and stuff like that. No. Are there people involved in corporations that do bad things? Yeah, like anything. Pick your organization. People do bad things. Instead, there is a lot of opportunity where there is confusion and when there is complication. Where there's complication, you make things easier, there's a dollar to be made. Who doesn't know how to make coffee at home? How many people go to Starbucks anyways? How many people could take all the money that they spend at Starbucks, buy the equipment and have it at home and save tons of money, but still would just go to Starbucks anyways? Why? Because it is easier. It is. You like coffee, you love it, can't grow it yourself, can't do those kind of things yourself, so it's not coming from your garden, and Starbucks just makes things so much easier. And when you're rushing it first thing in the morning and you're trying to get to work and a quick stop at Starbucks, a coffee, maybe a muffin, they don't sell much. Yeah, it's wonderful. And they provide a really valuable service that we all want. I think that the food being confusing and health being confusing benefits the corporations at our expense. And it's not that they are evil, but the thing is that I don't think we're getting much benefit out of this confusion, out of this complication. I don't think there's any real benefit to that. How did marketing turn eating into an identity war? Man, this is something. This is really something. You see, at the moment, you're human. You're just human. And you go back to 1875, 1812. I'm trying to move us as far away from the modern age of food as I possibly can, yet still stay within the West. 1795. there was no such thing as identity, your identity being wrapped up in what you eat. What do I mean? You didn't have a vegetarian, a vegan, a pescatarian, a carnivore, a ketovore, like all these titles, and you were trying to build something else completely. Back then, you were trying to survive. You were trying to help your family thrive. You were trying to maybe make your own steak, claim your steak. You were trying to go out on your own and make your own mark in the world, and food had nothing to do with identifying you as anything other than human. You ate to survive. You ate to have energy to go do what you were going to go do. Today we've got the vegans on this side, we got the vegetarians on this side, we've got the vegans and vegetarians on this side with people who eat meat on this side, we've got the omnivores, we've got all these sides and people battling each other. And it's created a great opportunity for profit at the expense of those who are doing all this fighting. I'm against you, you're against me. There's a tremendous amount of profit to be made here. As long as we can keep the confusion, as long as we can keep people not really knowing, and everybody comes out with all their expertise, arguing with each other, disagreeing with each other, it keeps that war going and it keeps it profitable for everybody else. Everybody else meaning the businesses. And again, this is not to say that somehow a business owner is somehow a bad person. Restaurant owners, they're not a schemer or anything like that. They just want to make a buck. They love food. Gordon Ramsay loves food. He loves how delicious it can be and how wonderful it is, and it brings people together. Diners, drive-ins, and diners, drive-ins, and dives. Guy Fieri, he loves those family businesses, and those family businesses, they're there to serve. So, I think even like when it comes to pharmaceuticals, at least at the very beginning of where they came from, and people involved in there, they are in there for good reasons. There are major problems with these corporations and what it has become. But I want to be careful of just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think food is far simpler than the way it's promoted. And because of that confusion and because of that complication, it creates opportunities that I don't think are natural. Does that make sense? You're a human being. You're valuable, you matter, and you don't need to identify yourself as this or that. At least when it comes to food. A vegetarian, a vegan, an omnivore. I'm not a big fan of these titles that's got us all separated. What lies or half-truths have I believed about healthy food? Like, okay, here's one. If you truly want to be healthy, you need to include vitamins and supplements in order to truly be healthy. Because the food that we eat today is not nearly as nutritious as it was 150 years ago, 200 years ago. The soil is so depleted that the plants can't get the nutrients out of the ground that they used to 200 years ago. There is truth to that. There really is. But here's the wild thing. You go back 1,000 years ago. How many people had access to mangoes? What did bananas look like 1,000 years ago? What did apples look like 1,000 years ago? Potatoes 1,000 years ago. Celery, broccoli. You name it. vegetables and fruits, were those things all that edible 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago for all of humanity? Now, each people group who had gotten into agriculture and developed plants to be eaten, they all had their specialities. But what was the primary food that people ate back then, 2,000 years ago? And is that food not available today? The healthiest food that people ate wasn't fruits and vegetables at large. A lot of slaves did consume grains along with poor people and animals. But as I was learning this week, actually, a lot of cultures actually fed even the poorest quite a bit of meat. Quite a bit of meat. Not fruits and vegetables, not plants. It was meat that they went after. And until recently, fatty red meat was considered health food and the desirable food. It was the food that the wealthy could afford to eat. Hence, the wealthy often had better health than the poor. It's interesting. Now, this is something I had to do with my own with my own health. This is something I had to do with my own attitude. My own attitude towards the deception that I had fallen for. And I've noticed that for a lot of us, we've been deceived about a lot of things. Finances, education, history. Just, there's a lot of it. There is a lot of it. And we can get to feeling rather awful about ourselves about ourselves with the decisions that we made based on what we knew. Here's the reality. We need to be gracious with ourselves like we would want others to be gracious with us when we don't know. We made the decisions that we made because that's what everybody told us. I consumed way more vegetables, way more fruit before than I do now because I understood it to be healthy. This is what makes you healthy. Those plants, those vegetables, this is the best for you. And that being said, if those following a standard American diet that's heavily reliant on box foods and fast food joints and that kind of thing, you're going to find, pardon me, I got distracted for a second there. Okay, yeah, if you're eating the standard American diet full of processed foods, just highly processed factory foods, and you were to shift over to just say a omnivore diet, but you avoided all the ultra processed foods, your health will improve. And I always state this because we're dealing with people who are significantly overweight or significantly unhealthy, whether it's overweight or malnourishment or any number of things. We have a very unhealthy population. And when you shift your diet just to eating far more whole foods, authentic foods, foods from the earth, if I can say it that way, instead of foods from the factory, it's foods from the earth, that there's fewer middlemen between you and where the food came from, your health will improve significantly. You're not going to suffer the way that those who stay on the super factory foods will and do. And sometimes we get so unhealthy because of the choices that we made. I think of people who, they're 600 pounds, 500 pounds, 400 pounds, 700 pounds. Yeah, I think of this one lady. She's like 800 pounds, over 800 pounds, completely immobile. And how horrible we feel when we get to that kind of size. We feel so horrible. We made the decision to eat the way that we decided to eat. We decided to do what we did. And it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. But we cannot crucify ourselves. You got to give yourself some grace. It's better that you do the right thing and live to the max of your knowledge than feel guilty and beat yourself up and don't make the changes that you need to make. You have made mistakes. We all have. And you were doing the best you can. Maybe you got trapped and maybe you ignored some of the knowledge that you did have. You decided to ignore it. Forgive yourself. I'm trying to be careful with this phrasing because it's forgiveness that we seek from others is so important. And we need to forgive others, But you need to offer yourself some grace when it comes to the decisions that you have made that have led to poor outcomes. You did not know. How could you have? And you got addicted to foods that are designed to be addictive. They're designed to be incredibly palatable. Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, I think it's those two who taught me the phrase hyper-palatable. See, food is meant to taste good, right? It's actually meant to taste good. So when cows eat grass, it actually tastes good to them. When a lion eats meat, it tastes good to the lion. When a bird eats its bugs, it tastes good to that animal. That animal will reject grass. It's not going to consume the grass like a cow will, and a cow will not consume the bugs like the bird will, because it wants that grass. It tastes good to it. When we are eating in harmony with our biology, things taste good. So that's good. We want that. But we humans were wildly intelligent, and that's a good thing. There's nothing bad about that. But sometimes we put our intelligence towards things that are detrimental to us. And this is playing out in the modern world. So we figured out what makes things taste really, really good to humans. And certain plants, we know that we can eat certain plants because they're sweet. Certain plants allow us to consume their berries and stuff like that. And it's sweet, so we know we can eat that. Honeybee is the same thing. It's sweet. We know that's safe to eat. And so you take the sweet, the salt, the fat, and fat tastes incredibly delicious to humans. You combine that, you can make anything that isn't really all that tasty taste delicious. I mean, have you had lemon juice? And we pour a whole bunch of sugar in that, and suddenly lemon juice tastes really, really good. I know pine needles. I was just learning this recipe today, watching random stuff on YouTube. And you take these pine needles and you put that into some jar with spring water, I think they said, or something like that, and sugar. And you let it ferment for a couple of days or something, and apparently it tastes like Sprite. When you drink it, it tastes delicious. Go and eat pine needles without that process. Vanilla extract, one of the most delicious foods. It makes flavors. What it does to ice cream and cookies and cakes and stuff like that. Drink vanilla extract, or get the vanilla bean and eat that straight. And how delicious does that taste? We are very, very good as humans engineering food to be delicious. And the factories take this, the corporations, the food industry has taken this to another level and made it so that we love their food way more than what we're actually supposed to. You take a fatty red meat, beautiful, delicious ribeye steak. I'm talking the best of the best, top of the line, more tender than you could possibly imagine, and it's cooked perfectly. You can only eat only a certain amount of that until your stomach says, nope, no more. That's it. Don't need no more. In fact, you can't even eat more than you can only eat a couple of you can only eat a certain number of times in a day when eating that kind of food. I saw this one video of a young lady who was absolutely concerned because she couldn't eat more because she's used to the super palatable food that you have to eat at least twice a day, and far more we eat something like 4 to 5 times a day. So of course you overate. Of course you did. I did. You overate, I overate. And we got to forgive ourselves. We got to let it go. Or otherwise, we're just going to spend our time feeling guilty because we got tempted so hard, and it's so hard to let it go of these hyper palatable foods that trigger on an extreme level the signals in our body to tell us that this is good to eat. Now, I did jump ahead of my script. I jumped ahead because I said it already. But why don't animals get fat or sick? Go back to what I was saying. I briefly mentioned it, where like the cow eats grass. That's all it eats. The gorilla eats plants. The chimpanzee mostly eats plants. It does have other things. But the thing is that they eat what they are specifically biologically designed for. The koala bear from Australia can only eat the eucalyptus plant, I believe it is. The eucalyptus tree. Is that what it is? And that's it. Can't eat anything else. It cannot digest anything. It's not supposed to. And if you can get it to consume other things, you're going to make the animal sick in multiple ways. Those animals in nature, they don't get sick because they stick to the food that they are designed to eat. So our pets and our children and ourselves, we don't thrive because we are not eating what we are biologically designed for. Animals, the cow eats nothing but grass. That's all it does. It doesn't eat much else. There's probably some insects and stuff like that does get mixed into its food, as the animals sometimes will consume bugs that are kind of stuck to the grass. But otherwise, they eat grass, and they have a digestive system that is specifically designed for that enables them to get all the nutrients that they need within the amount of time, not the amount of time. Within the I am sorry. I'm totally stumbling on myself. Let me try that again. Cows are designed to get all the nutrients that they need from the food that they eat. 100%. They do not need anything else. Their bodies are perfectly designed to handle what they actually eat. When we feed them what they're not designed to eat, they have extreme reactions, extreme results. Cows are not naturally a super fatty animal to the level that you get when you feed them tons and tons of grains. This fattens them up like crazy. Pigs, the particular breeds that we have, they are a fat animal, but we exacerbate that fat content in that animal by feeding them tons of grains. When you feed animals what they're not supposed to eat, they end up with unnatural or extreme results, and detrimental extreme results. It's not positive. It's not healthy for them. So why do wild animals thrive? They stick to what they normally would eat, right? And it's not just discipline, it's their instinct, right? Where our pets, they're dependent on us to feed them, so we feed them food from the factory. I mean, when was the last time you spent a week feeding your cat, your dog, your bird, whatever, not from the factory? Like, never. I never have. My pet gets, well, I don't have any pets, but my family does. I don't have anything to do with the cat. I do not like cleaning the kitty litter, so no. That being said, We feed our animals from the factory. And there's some really high priced stuff. You go to Costco, they've got some pretty pricey cat or animal food, pet food there. You go to your different pet stores. I'm trying to think of, like, there's is it Petcetera? And I'm totally getting the name a bit confused, but these pet stores, they sell the very expensive stuff. But our animals still get arthritis. They still get overweight. We actually have food now that is designed for overweight animals. How come those animals don't occur in nature, except for animals that are designed to be overweight? Like bears will fatten up for the winter, right? Rodents will fatten up for the winter. There is a hummingbird that flies across the Gulf of America from, is it Florida? I forget. But along the coast of the United States, and flies across the Gulf of America down to Mexico. And it actually fattens up. This little hummingbird fattens up and flies across. And it has to have that fat so that it can make it across the other side. Otherwise, it'll die. Like there is a place for fattening up. And there are creatures who do it deliberately. But a cow was never meant to be fattened up. It was just never meant to that. And, a cat, a dog, these animals weren't meant to be fat. All animals have, I guess, a certain level of fat. Rabbits, I think, are like some of the leanest creatures you can possibly come across. But our pets and our kids are not thriving. We are not thriving because of the food that we eat. I mean, ask this question. I got this next question here is, what does domestication teach us about processed foods? And I mean, what does it teach us? Processed foods? And I'm talking ultra processed foods. I'm sorry, but there's some people that are really, really passionate, and they'll say, like, well, hot dogs, are that's factory food and stuff like that. That's processed foods. Or there's actually, not within the community, but right now I'm hearing about how processed foods are linked to cancer, and I can't find any research that isn't anything other than epidemiological that has incredibly light correlation. Like, there's no causation. So when I'm saying processed foods, I'm talking the carbohydrates, I'm talking about the plant foods, the plant-based foods. When any creature consumes those things, it's detrimental to their health. Every time. And you have to be very controlled about that food. And like I know for myself, or for humans, we'll just say humans, like humans who have ultra processed foods have to put themselves into a state of starvation in order to keep themselves from gaining too much weight from ultra processed foods. You will not have that problem when you are eating meat. When you eat meat, hot dogs too, put the hot dogs, bologna in there too, pepperoni. You cannot gorge on that stuff to the point of gaining a whole bunch of weight. And you'll stay full for far longer when you eat that kind of food than when you eat your ultra-processed foods. And I got this question down here. How did convenience become more important than design? Is our modern lifestyle. Our modern lifestyle has definitely made it so that we need convenience in order to keep up with our ridiculously busy lives. And there are so many factors that are contributing to the lifestyles that we have. That's not your fault. You didn't design this system. You're working your fingers to the bone, trying to keep up with everything. And so, yeah, convenience is rather important. It really is. And if you have, just trying to keep up with your own, like if you're a single person and you're trying to keep up with life, you're already busy. Then if we add in their spouse and children, convenience is really, really important. That's how we ended up becoming, I think, even more sucked into the highly ultra-processed foods and ignoring our design and what we were designed to consume and what we need to be healthy and to thrive, what actually we need just on a natural level. It gets presented, natural food, all right? Natural food gets presented in a way that it's like, if you want to eat this way, you're going to have to spend multiple hours per day in the kitchen preparing food so that you can eat healthy. And you're like, I'm already busy. I've already got 1,000 things to do. I've already got a hugely busy lifestyle, and we're going to make it more complicated. We're going to make it far more complicated for people to eat, or make for me to eat. Convenience is so important. And with the lifestyles that we have, we can't consider like, oh, well, I got to have beans, and I got to have rice, and I got to have pasta, and I got to have all kinds of vegetables, leafy vegetables, roots, legumes, nuts, seeds, and spices, and fruit. And I'm probably repeating myself. Like, that's all got to get added in. And then you're being told, like, well, no, don't buy from the box. Don't cook from the box. Like, I've already said that already tonight. Cooking from the box is not healthy. So you then got to go over to food that's not pre-prepared. You've got to do all the preparation, which means hours of work per week trying to just eat healthy. And you're already really busy. Yeah, right. And then on top of that, let's add advertising. Let's add constant education coming from the schools, the medical community, our government, movies and entertainment, music, you name it, all reinforce that we have to have this huge variety, and we have to eat a very complicated meal, or we have to eat a very complicated diet in order to be healthy. I love anime. Anime is one of my favorite forms of entertainment, and there's often within anime a character that knows how to cook really, really well. And when they illustrate, they're trying to show that this is a good cook that's now going to feed the other characters healthy. That food has so much variety and preparation involved that, yeah, suddenly the person has to be like an expert cook. But he does do a good job, man. I love me some freaking Japanese cuisine and Italian cuisine, or Korean, Cambodian, African. I love it. Chinese, it's delicious food. But it's complicated. And you have to have some mad skills to pull that food off. In fact, I do find Japanese cuisine really difficult. No shade to Japanese. I mean, if I grew up Japanese, I'd find probably it's dead easy. It's just dead easy. But I'm not used to it, I'm not used to it. So I got to go to a Japanese restaurant to consume and enjoy some proper Japanese food. But I think we've been taught that our food has to be complicated. I suspect if you went back to Japan and went 1,000 years ago and took a look at what the Japanese eat or were eating back then, dead simple food. More simple than how a Japanese would feel about their food today. Like, I mean, yeah, the food would be way simpler and very nutritious. Chinese cooking, take it back 1,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and you'd probably find that the Chinese food would be so simple. Beautiful food, delicious. I'll guarantee you that food would taste good, but simple. Our food today is so complicated, and healthy food gets presented as wildly complicated, that with busy lives and not needing more difficulty and stress in our lives, we go for ease. We go for convenience. And I don't blame nobody. In fact, let me take this a bit further. You go to somebody who's like 600 pounds, 700 pounds, right? And this person feels really guilty. Every person I've ever seen talking about their severe obesity, they always feel really guilty. And they know they should do better, and they just can't. I think a huge part, or I should say, that person has been advertised to and pushed to consume food that is highly palatable, and they have a propensity for compulsive behavior, emotional behavior, maybe. And they're eating food that they've been told is supposed to be normal food, but they somehow have some kind of problem. I will argue, because I've watched this a couple of times. Well, I shouldn't say I've watched this. I've come across a couple of people now, when they changed their diets over to fatty red meat, and they got really disciplined about it. They ate as much as they wanted, but they would eat just that. And they did not cut back on calories. No way, no how. And they couldn't add exercise. You 850 pounds. You're not running around in a gym, doing push-ups and jogging and stuff like that. No, the only thing you can do is just change your diet, and they lose weight. Huge amounts of weight. The one lady, she has lost something like 520 odd pounds just changing her diet. She was, and she got to her state that she was in because her life was busy. Food was a comfort for her, and different tragedies and trauma that was going on in her life. The food became a self-medicating medicine, and then as she got bigger and bigger, she started to feel horrible about that. So she ate more because she felt horrible, and then she felt horrible because she ate more, and just vicious cycles. And the food that is made today, that food is designed to be very much an emotional experience. And I am very much picking on highly ultra processed foods. That's what I'm picking on. So I'm arguing that simplicity itself could be medicine. Not medications. The medications have their place. They definitely have their place. I'm not 100%, again, no baby out with the bathwater, right? The simpler the food. So go back to this lady that weighed 850 pounds, and I believe this lady is a part of either Stella, Steak and Butter Gal's gang, or she's a part, I think it was Steak and Butter Gal. This wonderful, wonderful lady, 850 pounds. She took all the food that she was eating, the huge variety of food, all kinds of carbs, all kinds of fancy stuff, and she got rid of it. And the only thing she would eat is just fatty red meat, bacon, eggs, butter. I think that's what she went down to. Simplifying. A lot of us would look at that and say, man, that's so restrictive. It's so restrictive. She was 850 pounds. And this wonderful lady, and I'm giving this word wonderful because the bravery it took to change that diet and to go to the simplifying her diet like that took huge bravery, because food was her heart, her soul, her identity. It was everything. And she changed her diet. She ate as often as she wanted to, snacked as often as she wanted to. She only just changed what it was she was eating and snacking on. And she's now down 525 pounds, something like this. I don't have the numbers exact because I don't have the numbers exact. Simplicity. I think that one of the things that we need to do with our diets, how to fix the complication, how to fix it, is to get rid of the wild variety that we eat. No other species on the planet eats as much variety as we do. And I'll even argue bears as well. Bears and pigs and these other animals, they don't eat the variety like we do. We also need to stop with eating from the globe. The food's got to come from all over the world. Mangoes do not naturally grow in Canada. Why are we eating mangoes year-round? Bananas do not naturally grow in Canada and most of the United States. I think there's some places where bananas can grow, but they don't grow naturally. Most of the West, they don't grow naturally in England. I mean, when we simplify our diets, we could also have a much better effect on the environment in the world. The environment in the world. We could have a much better effect on the environment we all live in. If we simplify our food, it would be medicine for our bodies and amazing medicine for the earth too. And I'm not an environmentalist. I want to be careful here because I can come across as like a super environmentalist. No, but I do care about the land. I'm attached to it. It provides everything that enables me to live. I care about the land very much. And I want to see the land be healthy so that there be generation after generation after generation getting to use and be a part of and enjoy life and the land. Absolutely. So our simplifying of our diets would be medicine for our bodies and medicine for land. And there's a live stream right there. That's a live stream right there. I gotta dig into that a lot deeper. I'm not talking about going crazy, and that needs to be defined, but I'm not talking about going crazy. I'm just saying that we can do our part for making the world a better place by just simply simplifying our food. And that would get rid of how complicated our diets are, which would also get rid of the huge amount of cost that our diets cost right now. And the United States right now is having some real problems, and Canada too, and Europe, where food is just incredibly expensive. But imagine if you only ate once a day, no snacks, you had no desire for all kinds of drinks and snacks and all kinds of different types of food. You know how much cheaper your food could get? Now, I'm not going to recommend this for women. I'm understanding that fasting for women is a lot more complicated than fasting for men. So imagine, though, if the men took on fasting every month and they fasted, say, twice a month for 4 days, twice a month. How much money would you save not eating over 4 days? There was this one gentleman, Dr. Kiltz. I forget his first name. He decided to do an experiment and fasted for 14 days. Now, don't starve yourself just for the sake of, just for the sake of the sake. I'm just saying that the cost of food comes down significantly when you don't eat as often as we do, and we don't eat as all the snacks and all the different types of food that we get encouraged to purchase every single month. Forget about every single month. I was thinking monthly terms. I mean, many of us shop every day. I mean, I never got into that habit, but you're shopping every single day. And there's a huge variety. And I've experienced simplifying my diet, even though the meat was more expensive per pound than the other things that I purchased, usually. When I wasn't purchasing all that other stuff, my budget it stayed the same for a while. It did stay the same, but I actually saw it dropping because I was eating so much more simple. And then I started to play around with fasting. Again, take your time to study and research fasting. Don't just jump into it. At least I didn't. I studied from Dr. Jason Fung and then a few other people. But I fasted, and all of a sudden I didn't eat for 4 days. I was not suffering, not at all. And again, I understand now that women, when it comes to fasting, is a very different animal. And so I'm not recommending there. But for us men, it seems that it does a lot for us, and we can get away with it a lot more. And all of a sudden, 4 days of not eating food in just 1 month. Reduced my diet. Well, actually, I did it twice. I actually did do it twice. Reduced my budget significantly. And it's not, starving so that you can save money. I'm not recommending that. I'm just trying to make the point that when I simplified my diet, my budget actually did go down because I wasn't buying so many things, especially from the gas station, 7-Eleven, and corner stores, because think about how much that costs. That's a lot of day-gum dough, man. And I did it, man. I did it. I used to spend, what was it, $750, $800 a month on food for one guy just for one person, my budget's significantly less now. It is significantly less. I think I brought my budget down to $250 last time I checked per month, down from $800. $250 to $300 a month on food. I'm not talking about house supplies or anything like that. I'm just talking food alone. Compassion versus nutrition, the tension. Why do so many compassionate people choose vegan or fruit-based diets? I think that a lot of people are wonderful, compassionate individuals. I'm trying to be real here. We have a culture. We have a people. People in general don't want to see other people or other things suffer. They're not interested. First Nations, I was learning about this in school. And I learned that the First Nations they hunted and they ate animals. They totally did. But they would pray over the animal and thank the animal for its sacrifice. And I do believe there was, I think a lot of Indigenous people engaged in this practice where they thank the animal for giving its life so that the human may live. Humans were not looking to cause suffering. And now all of a sudden, imagine you're a young person today and you don't really know where your food comes from. Not like the First Nations knew, not like Aboriginal peoples knew. The way that their lives were very, very connected to where their food came from. They knew. But a lot of us today, we don't. And all of a sudden you find out that your food comes from animals dying, that you live at the expense of others' lives. And that really bothers you. And I'm going to say, rightfully so. You're a compassionate person. You care. You care. And so a lot of people say, I'm going to go over to veganism because even like the dairy industry, a lot of it is still, you discover that the dairy industry can be quite heartless towards the creatures that provide the dairy that we may eat. It gets presented that way, and I'm saying it that way because I think there's a lot of ignorance, and I think there's some misrepresentation that takes place of the dairy industry, of the farmers that are involved. That being said, you don't want those animals to suffer. And some of the farmers really are not good with the animals. That is absolutely true. And so you're like, I'm not doing dairy. I'm not doing eggs. You look at the egg farming, and the chickens are either in a building not outside at all. Yes, they're free range, but they're still inside of a building. They can't really go anywhere. They can't enjoy the land. And then other chickens they're in a cage. And you're like, I don't want animals to suffer so that I may live. So these people reject all animal products, period. And then, killing an animal outright so that I may live, no. I don't want that to happen. I do not want that to happen. I want to actually enjoy the food. Pardon me. I got distracted again. I'm watching. How many people are watching? People don't want to see terrible things take place against animals so that they may live. They don't want that. And you know what? I agree. I think that we need to be far more caring and compassionate about the land and the animals. I think that's true. I don't think that there's any, I don't think that's silly. What they get beautifully right is that we need to be far more aware of where our food comes from and how we get food, how food ends up on our plate. We need to know that. I think that our ignorance towards our diets and like where our food comes from, and frankly where everything comes from, I think we need to be far more aware. And not aware so that we can get angry about something. Aware so that we can make choices that are responsible, choices that are really good. And this includes not only the cost of food and stuff like that, but what do we need as humans in order to survive and thrive? Like, what do we need? I think it's vital that we understand that. And so I think that where the vegan and the vegetarian are mistaken is what our bodies need in order to thrive. But they're right about taking note of what we are eating and what that cost is, not only to our pocketbook, but to the land. And you know what? I'm just going to say it, to the land, because the animals are part of the land. We need to know that. But here's the thing. The question I have down here is it possible to honor creation and still eat from it? And yes, I think it's absolutely possible. And please understand, when I say eat from it, yes, plants and stuff like that, but I'm putting the animals in there. We can honor the land, we can honor the animals, and still eat from it, from creation. Going back to the First Nations people, the native people, the Aboriginal people, were grateful to creation. They were grateful to the animals. They were grateful to the Great Spirit for what they were given, so that they may thrive, so that they may survive. And I think that one of the things that we must adopt is an attitude of gratitude. And man, I got to put the fingers right back at me, because I've been so detached too. I've been so detached. I just go down to Burger King, I go down to McDonald's, I grab from the grocery store. I don't even think about it. And I just eat. I just consume. It's like, but what was the cost of that coming to me? And not to feel guilty. I don't think, no. Don't. This isn't about feeling guilty and sending out a guilt trip. My goodness gracious, you're such a wonderful, valuable person. And it's not to do that, but to feel grateful, to choose to be grateful for that which we are able to have. And this is whether you're vegan or all meat or anything in between. If we could just get grateful and know how the food makes it to our plate, I think that would have a very positive effect on the choices that we make when it comes to the food that we eat, when it comes to the things that we consume. I think that, and for me too, I need to get a lot better at knowing where my food comes from and what's the costs all the way around. And when I think of the First Nations, the Inuit, the Aboriginals in Australia, I'm not using completely proper names. I do apologize. They ate from the land, and they were very, very connected to the land. And they honored the land. They honored their family. They honored each other, and they survived, thrived, and lived with the land. And I think we can do that today in our modern age. I think it's absolutely possible. But I think we got to really work hard to get away from the factory that feeds us. Now, when it comes to my computer that I'm using right now to talk to you, this camera or the cell phone that I use and those kind of things, I think the factory is still necessary. But I think there's way too much factory involvement when it comes to our food. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why we are so spiritually detached, because there's just such a break in everything that we engage with, that we don't, kind of like get out there and like, put our feet in the grass. They say, go out and touch the grass. Go out and, touch grass. It does wonders for you. And yeah, it's absolutely true. It is absolutely true. I've experienced it myself when I've been indoors too much, disconnected too much, screens too much. All of a sudden, just getting out into creation and just feeling creation, it does a world of good for your mind. And I was learning about this. Change your diet, change your mind. What it does for our mind when we simplify our diet and remove the factory, and this is, I'm very much referencing seed oils and margarine, and shifting over to tallow and butter and lard. And if your faith system doesn't allow you lard, at least the tallow and the butter, what that does for your mind, your psychology. Oh, wow. It's still very, very, like, say, new research that's being done. It's on the edge and this kind of thing. But a lot of people are reporting, so self-reporting, that when they consume more fat, they find that their mental state significantly improves over time. It's not an overnight anything, but over time, they find that their mental state is actually improving. So I think that we can in every way be compassionate and thrive with the food that we choose to eat, and starting with simplicity. Simplify what you're eating. Where does it come from? What does it cost? The whole cost. And then go for the least costly thing. But one of the things I've learned, there is no such thing as life without cost. And that means a beaver has an impact on the environment, and it costs life for a beaver to be alive. And a fish and a deer, a wonderful deer, never hurt nothing in its life, it costs life for a deer to be alive. And so for us as humans, it costs life for humans to be alive. And what I'm learning is that all of creation is built with this life and death cycle that's absolutely connected. I'm sounding like Lion King right now, and Simba is talking with, oh goodness gracious, I want to say Aslan. That is not his name. Oh, sugar. Simba's talking with his father, and he says, like, the circle of life, and everything is connected. And oh my goodness, I'm quoting freaking Lion King. But it's real. Like it really is connected. And what's happened in the modern life is that we have gotten so disconnected from that cycle, that circle of life. Oh my goodness, I am playing that song right after this live stream. I can't do it right now when I don't even have it set up. But I'd be getting a copyright strike. But yeah, oh my goodness, as I get busy and have like a realization here. But I'm really learning that our lives have to impact the earth. And that is not a bad thing. That is how the earth is set up. It's everything is connected. And yes, some things are going to die that you may live. So may we live in such a way that honors those lives that were given so that we may live. And I said you, but we, us, right? Because life, I cost life too. Oh, right. So the $200 steak lesson, I learned a very important lesson. I have a wonderful brother-in-law who makes a lot more money than I do. And he invited me over to his house, and he shared with me and my amazing best friend, Byron, and Tim, and himself, and we all sat around and had Wagyu beef. Let me tell you something. That freaking beef was delicious. I've never tasted beef so daggum good. It is not that the beef had significantly it didn't taste like beef. It tastes like chocolate. No. It had such a pleasurable flavor of beef. I couldn't believe it. But what did that one steak teach me about real food and real value? As expensive as that steak was, as expensive as it was, and it was delicious, that expense, that $200 for that one steak, ribeye, you were not paying for greater nutrition. You were paying for incredible tenderness. That beef was ridiculously tender and very flavorful. Thanks to all the fat. And what I realized is that you go to the supermarket, find your cheapest freaking cut of beef you possibly can. Get the cheap one. Hot diggity dog, don't even be shy. Butter and that beef, and you're getting the same nutritional value out of that meat as the $200 steak. If you can get grass-fed, grass-raised, outdoor chickens, and you eat one of those chickens, you're getting as much nutritional value as you are from the Wagyu beef. In order to be healthy, you do not have to break the freaking bank. How many of us would love to eat super, super healthy, but you go to the Whole Food store or whatever, I shouldn't pick on a brand, but just pick the healthiest foods you can possibly think of at the grocery store, and how much money do you got to spend? And when I shifted over to meat, butter, and beef fat and all that kind of stuff, I shifted over to that. The expensive meat is not any more nutritious, by and large, than the crazy, crazy cheap stuff. Okay. If you've done your studying before, and you look at grass-fed, grass-finished beef, right? As Dr. Ken Berry would say, panda massaged, right? Just the absolute top quality beef. The nutritional value within that beef is nominally better than factory-raised beef. Like, it's nominally better. This is not an endorsement of like, oh, well, who cares about the animals? Let's just have factory food. No. But when you're first starting out within this system, right? You and I are not going to be able to change the system today. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could, right? Make it the perfect system. But this is the system we have right now. You can abso-freaking-lutely eat healthy on a minimal flipping budget. Right now, I understand that in the United States, the federal government is shut down. This is no political statement, whatever. They're shut down. And so there's a whole pile of people that are like, they're not making money. And they're not able to go buy the food that they need. Imagine you are on a tiny budget and you need to make your budget absolutely stretch. Absolutely stretch. And you want to eat nutritionally. Go get the cheapest freaking meat you can possibly think of. Go to the butcher and go see if they'll give you some beef fat and pork fat for free. And this is I've actually done this. I've straight up done this, and eat that for the month until you can you get your benefits again, or just permanently adjust your diet so that you don't need nearly as much money per month for you to eat. It's just because something is in food is expensive does not make it nutritious when you're eating a simplified natural food. I'm trying to not be silly here. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. Because you go back to the normal American diet, right? The standard American diet. Go back to that. If you want to eat healthy, you have to raise up your budget like significantly to get to get food that is really, really healthy. And the more money you spend, typically the healthier it is. And I mean, there's some wonderful food out there that you gotta pay for. But you simplify your food. Go to a natural, proper human diet, and you can bring your budget right down, and it stays steady. And the issue, and your budget can be very small. Eat like a poor person in budget, but eat like a king in nutrition. I know that sounds cheesy. Big old cheesy man over here. I'm naturally a cheesy man. You can have the budget of a poor person, but have the nutrition of a rich person when you eat the proper human diet. This is what's happened in my life. I do not have a large budget. I don't have a pile of money hanging out in my bank account. So I need whatever money I have is got to stretch. It's got to stretch. Healthy food is not about price. Just because it's expensive, it doesn't make it healthy. And I have written down here honesty, but honesty from the food manufacturers. Instead, I think I'm going to change that. And instead of saying honesty, healthy food is not about price. It's about nutrition and bioavailable nutrition. You can have food that you absolutely get nutrition from, which means you will not need supplements. So imagine, again, you're back to the American government shut down. There's a bunch of people not getting benefits. There's a pile of other people that are not even getting paid, period. Soldiers and stuff like that. If you've got a tiny, tiny, tiny food budget, you don't need supplements. How long could you make your food budget stretch? You could go better, right? I'm not mocking. I'm not making light of those that are struggling financially. I'm not. What I'm saying is this could be a solution to help bringing our costs down. Because like one of the biggest challenges is in the West right now is people's budgets, in order to just live from day to day, is just through the roof. And one of the ways I've been learning about dealing with that is bringing down my controllable expenses. There are some expenses you can't control. Go ahead and try and live in a tent in the middle of winter in like northern United States. Go ahead and try and do that. No, you need a house. You got to have an insulated home. There's certain things you have to have. But where you can control it. And I'm swearing off debt. I'm never going back to debt again. No way. Not happening. But what about my food? Before I was spending $800 a month on food. And now I'm down to $250 to $300. That's better. And I'm actually trying to get it under that. I'm trying to get it less than that. Just to do it. I want my budget to be under my control, instead of it always being under somebody else's control. I want my health to be under my control, because if I had say over my health, I would never be sick. Who the heck would choose to be sick? Okay, yeah, there are some unhealthy people that make that choice. That's true. But the vast majority of people would not choose sickness. And even those who pretend to be sick would never choose actual true sickness. Like, they would never actually choose it. They want to keep their health, but get the attention of sickness. They like it like that. They like that attention that they get. Okay. Now, I mentioned it before, but I'm going to put this in here, and this is the question. What's the cheap steak? What's the cheap food everyone can afford that just would be able to afford? One of the things I've learned is that you can get beef fat and pork fat and beef trimmings and pork trimmings for very, very low prices at butchers. Go make friends with your butcher. Go make friends with them. Buy from them. And they will often, you'll be like, hey, you got any beef fat? You got any pork fat? A lot of them will sell it for very, very little money. Chicken, get the chicken that is the whole chicken. Don't get if you do your price comparing. Got to do your price comparing. But chicken is very very price competitive. Pork is amazing how price competitive it is. It does not cost much in comparison to beef, where beef can be like $35 a pound. Go to pork, $3.50 a pound. Beef fat, pork fat, $1.50 a pound. In some places, they'll even give it away for free. In fact, if you make a purchase like this and say, "Hey, could you throw on some beef with or some fat with that too?" They'll be like, "Yeah, sure." Like, I mean, it seems that fat is starting to gain some value due to people like myself talking about, hey, fat's good for you kind of stuff. But you can absolutely save a lot of money just by getting those cheap cuts. Ground beef goes for a really good price a lot of times. And some people, if you have the means to do this, what they're doing is they're buying like whole cows, half cows. Some people are finding their ways to being able to make a deal with I've only been hearing about chickens, eggs specifically, and cows. I am suspecting that it's possible probably to find your way to making a deal with a farmer to buy a pig. And just once it gets of age, that pig will be that pig can be turned into food for you. And your price per pound is impressive. Like, it's really impressive. And you get a lot of meat and all the fat that you want. You're eating then once a day. Like, I'm down to once a day. That's how often I eat. My beautiful, wonderful sister, she's adopting somewhat my diet. She's more, I would call her ketovore. And she does twice a day. Right? She was kind of once a day, but twice a day. My amazing dad, who eats ketovore, he's once a day. No snacks. Oh, that's not true. Hot diggity dog. I got busy and told a lie. My amazing dad does have some snacks. He loves his yogurt, and he does love his cheese strings. Okay. Buddy has his yogurt. I got to remember that. So he has like one meal, and then in the evening he'll have snacks. Usually of yogurt or toast. Yeah, he likes those two things. But here's the thing. All of us, our diets are significantly less, and we are not consuming nearly like we used to. What about teenagers? Anybody been around a teenager lately? It's not like they just eat nothing. I'll argue, because I don't have experience with this, but I'll argue that if you were to move your child's diet over to fatty red meat and animal products, you're going to find your child will require less food per day than if they were eating the standard American diet. Not to mention how many of our children are so overweight. We don't mean to. But our children are overweight. And you move them over to a super simple diet, in my opinion, the proper human diet, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, or fatty red meat and animal products, a proper human diet, your baby will get busy and lose a huge amount of weight and gain a huge amount of health. I really recommend start studying this stuff. Get the testimonies. There are so many testimonies online of people who have overcome so many things by just simplifying their diet, and especially getting rid of the factory. So getting rid of the factory includes your seed oils, margarine, all seed oils. You could never naturally press them. Where I understand like coconut oil and olive oil, I think you can make that without the factory. And so if you can get really, really pure, properly made olive oil that hasn't been mixed with something else, that's like, apparently that's a natural, that's a decent oil. I was going to say very healthy, but it's a decent oil. But otherwise, get rid of the factory oils. Anything that comes from the factory, get rid of it. And what that'll do for your baby's health. What that will do. Oh my goodness. I got the question down here. How do we stop letting price tags decide our health? I think that the main way is simplification. Avoid the factory and simplification. I think that would do more for our health. Man, that would do so much for our health. I was going to say more for our health than we could imagine, but I'm not a big fan of that kind of line. If we could avoid the factory and eat from the garden and eat from the rancher, go to those two, I think that our health would improve significantly as a nation. And our babies would not be fat anymore and diabetic and suffering from, I saw a story. I saw this story of a little girl. She was like 13 years old, and she had signs of Alzheimer's, freaking dementia at 13, and by 16, she had dementia. Dementia, Alzheimer's. Now, why do I bring this up? You go back 100 years ago, 1925. There's no such thing as no 13-year-old with dementia or a 16-year-old with dementia. It doesn't exist. In fact, dementia is a very, very, very rare condition among the elderly in 1925. Extremely rare. Now, it is ridiculously common, and it's starting to affect our children. I'm arguing that it is our diets that are leading to that. There is some researchers, very, very few, but there are some researchers that are starting to call dementia, Alzheimer's, type 3 diabetes. And diabetes is when your body becomes unresponsive to insulin. It's not that it doesn't produce insulin, it's that your body is becoming unresponsive. And so if you change your diet and get rid of the carbohydrates and get rid of the seed oils, man, what that would do. And instead of the price tag guiding your purchasing decisions when it comes to your kitchen, when it comes to your diet, it's your health. And you know how your body actually works. It's one of the things I've studied for the last 2.5 years. But that first month opened my eyes back in 2023. And I was like, oh, so that's how the body works. And I mean, it wasn't just that 1 month, right? I went month after month after month in 2.5 years. And I've learned so much about how the body actually works and what the body actually needs. Obviously, I don't know as much as a doctor, but I've learned. And it's like, oh, so my body is responding metabolically to what I feed it. And the vast majority of the conditions that we're dealing with in our society today when it comes to our health are metabolic conditions. That's what I'm learning. I don't think we need more rules. I think we need less noise. And so with all the rules that come with the other types of diets and comes with the standard American diet and trying to be healthy, plus veganism and vegetarianism and those type of things, they come with a huge amount of rules. You have to do a lot of things in order to gain some kind of health. And I'm going to argue that if we move over to meat is dead simple. It doesn't take much to prepare it. Believe it or not, it does not take much to raise it when it comes to the land cost. When it comes to the cost to the land. And when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to preparing it, it's dead simple. We are addicted to new food rules. What? Why are we addicted to new food rules and resets? And I think we're so addicted to this because we are so sick. Because the population is so overweight, is so sick, there is this major challenge. We are so addicted to these solutions because we are doing the best that we can and we are so sick. So We're like, well, maybe I'll try this. Maybe I'll try this. And, information will come out like, okay, in the 80s, it was like avoid eggs, avoid butter, avoid lard, avoid, fatty anything. Eat lean, eat lean, eat lean. And then, years later, oh, eggs are okay, but we still got to eat lean. And then we should have margarine, but we shouldn't have hydrogenated margarine. So we're going to have this other type of margarine, but stick with the seed oils, because that's healthier, because we've got to avoid cholesterol, but our brains are made out of cholesterol and our bodies use cholesterol in order to do repairs in our bodies. And in fact, our bodies produce cholesterol, but we got to take medication to reduce cholesterol because cholesterol causes heart disease. And so I can't eat this and I can't eat that. And it's just like, in a lot of ways, I shouldn't have even said we are addicted to new food rules so much as we're so desperate to get better, to get healthy. And we need answers, and we're hunting for answers. What happens when we strip away the noise and just listen to our body? When we simplify our diets and move over to meat and just eat fatty red meats and just meat in general, just pick that. No more seed oils, no more factory food, just meat. Our bodies get a time of peace that is like, it's like when you've been living in the city and all of a sudden for the first time you go out away from the city by a couple 100 miles, and you find your way into the forest, and you find your way to a meadow, an opening in the forest, and you sit down, and you just listen. And all of a sudden, a peace will come to you that you have never experienced before. No more horns, no more footprints of people walking, no more talking, no more yelling, no more noise. There is sound. There is sound from nature. Nature does make sound, but it's not noise. And it's so peaceful that those from the city often do not know how to respond in an environment like that. And it takes time to get used to it. But if you take the time to get used to it, you will crave it. Like you crave a morning coffee, like you crave a chocolate bar, like you crave getting out of the city and getting into those quiet places and just hearing no sound or no noise, not silence. There is sound, but it's like a peaceful sound. And when you change your diet and you go simple with your diet, like dead simple, like dead simple, your body will start to speak to you. And at first you're going to be like, holy crap, what do I do with this? Like you're just, holy crap, like it's so weird. But practice it and practice it and practice it. And all of a sudden you're going to be able to actually hear what your body needs. And I'm going to, quotations, like it gets overused. You're going to be able to hear and feel what your body actually needs and what your body's actually saying and what's actually going on. You'll be able to understand hunger, like what real hunger actually is, because your body does actually talk to you about when you're actually hungry, like when you're nutritionally hungry. Not empty stomach hungry, not habitually hungry, not bored, or, you watch movies, so of course you got to eat, or, well, my friends came over, so I already ate, but I'm going to have a meal with them too. Like none of that. But actually eating because you are nutritionally needing that food. You'll be able to actually learn how to listen to your body, and suddenly there is no more noise. There is this peace that comes to your body that gets rid of confusion and puts you more in tune with yourself. It is, yeah, there's a spiritual, I'm laughing because I hear so much of modern conversation happening among many saying, Be one with yourself, love yourself, embrace yourself, accept yourself, all that kind of stuff. And in a sense, I'm not knocking it. But my lifestyle, I've not been that into that kind of stuff. I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. That's my connections. And so to sit there and say, well, you're going to become more in tune with yourself, more one with yourself, it sounds almost silly, but actually it's real. Because you're not sick anymore. You don't have fatty liver disease. You don't have, foggy brain. You don't have constant gas and pain from your stomach, heartburn going on in your body. Like, those are major issues. When you have heartburn, you have all that pain. I think that peace could end up being the new metric for health. Hear this. If your body is really healthy, you know when something real is up, and you can feel it coming. And you can often know the path that led to the thing that you're dealing with, and all of a sudden you can prevent issues, you can prevent problems. And then if all of a sudden you accidentally end up with a parasite, okay, this. Like, and it's easier to prevent those kind of issues. It's way easier to deal with those kind of issues. And all of a sudden, like, especially your mind can know peace. And when you get back into the city and you are working your normal life, you have greater emotional energy. You have a greater emotional bank account to pay for all that emotional energy needed to deal with modern life, normal life. And I'll tell you right now, there's always been stress when it comes to life. There's no getting around that. There's always stress. And when we have, I got down here, how do faith and clarity silence confusion? When you have a healthy body and a healthy mind, and you're studying, and you can study, and you can learn, well, shoot, hot dog. You're less likely to get into a state of confusion ever again. You're going to know how to find information, for one thing. You're going to know how to be educated, but you're also not going to be, you're going to know how to get educated, but you're less likely to feel confused because of conflicting voices telling you a dozen different things. It's going to be more clear. Yeah, there's no other way to say this. It's going to be a lot more clear. You know what to eat. And when you're getting tempted about eating something you shouldn't or doing something you shouldn't, you can do an action that can actually prevent making the choice you don't even want to make. Like, if I feel like snacking, instead of like, oh man, I'll just go have the thing I'm not supposed to have, I just go get myself, like, I have canned meat in my house. So I get tuna. I love tuna. Some tell me I'm a weirdo. Whatever. I love tuna. Open up a can of tuna. There we go. I got my snack. I'm not tempted anymore. I'm full. I don't even want anything else now. Just don't want it. And then I get so used to saying no. To things that it's easy now. Like, when I go into a gas station, I look around. I see it. And sometimes I even remember, oh, that candy bar, yeah, oh boy, that tasted good. But it's not a temptation anymore. And I'm not special. Dadgummit, no good words. It's just that, like, we are creatures of habit, and we can build whatever habit we want. Like, any habit you want, you can have it. And so I've been learning about building systems. And so instead of having goals, I want to be able to achieve this, that, or the other thing. It's like, in order to achieve this, that, or the other thing, I've got to be regularly doing this, that, and this. And so I got so used to saying no to the gas station snacks and the grocery store snacks and all that kind of stuff. I got so used to that. And then always allowing myself whatever healthy snack that I can have. I just look forward to having the cheese, the pepperoni, like I said, my sardines. I love sardines. Yeah, I love sardines. That I don't feel confused. And I'm now learning, yeah, you do fall to your systems. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. So whatever your system is, that's what we fall to. And so I learned to say no to me. It's easy to say no to somebody else, but to say no to me, that was powerful. Now, I said this earlier. Now I'm really going to say it. You were designed to be healthy. You were not designed to be sick. You were not designed to feel pain constantly. You were not designed to be out of breath constantly. You were not designed to suffer. You were designed to thrive. What does God's design tell us about how simple health was meant to be? I went to the Bible. And I looked up. I need to do a study on this. I really do. But I looked up, what does the Bible, what does God prescribe us when it comes to food? Meat. That's it. That means then that our health is simple. It's not meant to be complicated. It does not have to be complicated. We don't need all the factories and all the companies advertising all that they do to us, all the hours that we spend desperate to chase after health. It's actually not that complicated. It's actually really simple. And our health is designed that we may thrive in doing work, that we could work. And how can gratitude anchor us when progress feels slow? Right now I'm not at my ideal weight. I've made compromises. I've made compromises along the journey that have caused me not to lose weight the way that I should be. But I am absolutely grateful that I don't suffer from heartburn regularly anymore. Like, my heartburn's gone. I know that I'm having a much better effect on the environment around me, the world around me, because of the food choices that I'm making. That feels good. I choose to pay attention to the accomplishments and that I've already gotten, instead of focusing on how I have stalled in regards to my goals. Here's what I have accomplished. That's still my goal. That's my goal still. I'm going to get to my healthy weight. But I feel better. I feel good. I choose to feel good. I choose to celebrate. I choose to be grateful for what I've already gotten out of this entire process. So I'm not even tempted to give up my lifestyle for something else, because I've gotten these good results. And now I know a lot more about what the body needs nutritionally and where best to get that nutrition. So then again, the temptation still doesn't come near me, because I'm so grateful. Like, this is how it works. This is how it works. And yay. All of us are on a journey trying to get better, trying to be better, trying to be the very best that we can be. What's one act of faith that we can take this week towards healing? And you first starting this can be challenging. Like really? Like, take an action, keep it simple. Don't make it complicated. Make it dead simple. One simple act that you could actually do and actually follow through on and really actually do it every day. One simple thing that would push you towards actually getting to health. Would it be like taking time to to maybe learn about the carnivore diet? Like, or what has led people to actually even adopting that diet? What have they learned? Where's one simple place you could go? Like I know myself, like when I was commuting to work every day, I would listen to a podcast. And I would listen, my commute every day was a good 2 hours, 25 minutes. So I just took that commute and I listened to the podcasts of people talking about this stuff. Listen to books. I didn't do anything else different. Or, well, okay, I am doing something different, right? I'm not listening to music, right? I'm just like, no music. And I don't listen to people who complain and talk conspiracy theories. I listen to people who talk facts, research, that kind of stuff. I really try to avoid listening to conspiracy theories, because I've noticed that when I listen to that kind of stuff, I do get filled with fear. And some people will criticize me and go, well, like, you believe in Jesus, so you should have all your faith in Jesus. Hey, I don't like conspiracy theories. One, because it's also not concrete. It's all speculative. And it's all like closed behind closed doors kind of stuff. So give me the facts. How does the body actually work? What's the research really say? Where is the research? I want to understand. And I am so grateful. We do need to be grateful for the bodies that we have, that God gave us, that actually are capable of healing and recovering. Think about all the abuse that our bodies have gone through, and our bodies will still heal. Like, there's some stuff that's permanent, that's true, that's absolutely true, but man, the level of healing that our bodies are capable of is absolutely incredible. And thank you, Lord God, for that. I don't have anything more for my questions tonight. I thank you for watching. I thank you for sticking with me. I know these are long broadcasts. I always go for 2 hours. I got to start putting that in the description so you guys can know how long this is actually going to go for. So I try to aim for a good 2 hours. One, it gives me a chance to get comfortable and really get into my zone. I do tend to get distracted really easily. So if I got a lot of questions and then I can stretch things out a bit, it gives me a chance to come back to what I was talking about and to really deliver my message. You're amazing. God loves you. God is with you. You're a good thing. And I'm grateful that you stopped by to watch. And I pray that you will have success that's meaningful to you. I talk about losing weight or, getting my finances in order and that kind of stuff. That's what's meaningful to me. Whatever you're trying to achieve, whatever you're trying to get, whatever goal you're going for, I pray that you get success that aligns with that is meaningful to you. You can succeed. You do not need to fail. Aim for the stars. Aim for the stars. Don't be undercutting or underselling yourself and trying to not be greedy or aim too high no. Aim high. Aim right for the freaking aim for the moon. Aim for the stars. Do it. You will achieve far more when you aim for the greatest that you possibly can imagine than if you try to be humble and aim for only the humble. I learned about the word humble. It said that humble means to be teachable. So that means that you could aim for the stars, aim for great achievement, aim to be the best, to have the outcomes that you're looking for, and still hold on to humility. You can still do that. May you have health. May you have success that's meaningful to you. God bless you. God be with you. And I thank you for watching. You have an amazing day. Bye for now.
your head